Good evening all, and it is my great privilege to invite Mr. Mosesraj, who is the CEO of Brilio Technologies, and I am closely working with him since last 2 years. And it is very difficult to say about his what I can say the great achievements in his entire career throughout his career. He's having 20 plus years of experience, and he's passionate in giving the great speeches and great talks across the industry and sharing his views. And today it is a great privilege for all of us to okay get his time where he would like to share his views on the customer centric engineering topic. And feel free to ask the questions, and feel free to just engage here and try to get one bit out of this session. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Moses, and welcome.
Interesting. Yeah. It's nothing to do with engineering. It's fundamentally a generic talk. My name is Moses. I'll briefly tell about the. It's okay. If it's not coming, don't worry about it. Something is wrong. Yeah. Come to the next slide, please. Even that's not working. So I work for a company called Brilio, right? Same as Rama. So some of you might have heard. Now, if I have to tell about myself, there are some things which, yeah, okay, yeah, perfect, great, yeah. There are some things which I love doing. One of the things is my role has been in driving some change. I started with process changes. That's where the predominant work I did the first 15 years. Last 4 years, we're building systems, we roll out systems, and Rama works in our team. So that's how we know each other, and that's possibly the reason I'm here. Some of the other interests that I have in general, right, is to abstract and see what the reality is. Now, we all do abstraction in a certain way. I love doing it though, right? Now, it may sound a bit odd. What is abstraction? For example, let me put it this way, right? Can we understand every religion in the world? General answer will be no. But actually, if you abstract, you can. Because if you really slot religion into a few type A, type B, type C, there will not be too many types. You will be able to abstract it, right? If you take any theory, Maslow's theory of human needs, it's an abstraction of reality, right? You make sense of reality, of the real world, only when you abstract. So for as a person, as you grow and as we start designing things, as we start defining things for the company, whether it may be a process definition or it may be a definition of a new product or anything, this abstraction capability, abstracting the reality closest to the real world, right? That becomes very, very important, right? I don't know how much I related to it, but really, if you take any theory in the world, any framework is an abstraction of reality. The more closest it resembles the reality, the better it is that it will make meaning at the end of it, right? So, for abstraction, you need to have a very good understanding of the ground reality, and then you abstract it out so you can make meaning out of the whole thing, and you can actually pass the knowledge also. So that's one of my very my interests. And other interest is storytelling. Some of this is my newfound interest because I started telling stories to my kids. My daughter is 10 years, my son is 5 years now. Pretty much almost every week, couple of days in the night, I keep telling some stories. I cook up stories also, right? Now, the interesting thing about stories, what I figured out is this. I'll tell you a story. Let's take. We have to explain the concept of agility, right? Now, and you go and say agility, agile methodology, blah blah, and all this is pretty straightforward, right? It's nothing big deal, and all of us possibly will know. I'll tell you a story and relate. Then it may make a lot of interesting sense. Do you know what is the worst of disease? Worst of diseases? Cancer? Terminal illness? One of the worst of diseases is leprosy. Do you know why? Every other disease, you will feel the pain. In leprosy, you will not feel it. Now, have you seen these guys on the road with mutilated hands begging? Do you know why it becomes mutilated? Do you think leprosy eats it? No. Why? Rats eat it. They live near the gutters. Rat eat it. They don't even know that their body is being eaten. Right? That's exactly the truth. Now, that's the effect of leprosy, that they don't know what is someone doing in their body. Means what? There is no feedback into their brain from that part. When there is no feedback, the part is dead. In your engineering, if you don't have a feedback, it fundamentally means you are dying. And feedback is the core of agility. And that is the only way you can get the complete product right. Is your agility? What is agility? The core of agility is feedback. Am I able to communicate? What happened now in the story is nothing big deal. There was a sense of, I connected a set of events, I related it. I told a sequence of events which looked completely irrelevant at some time, right? But finally I made a sense of it. It is something which you did not know. A climax was that it is being eaten and there is no feedback, right? That was my final part of the story, which is the climax. And there was a sense of wonder in your mind. And because I could infuse a sense of wonder, then I said, that's exactly what happens in a product development as well. If you don't get the real feedback, you lose agility. Agile methodology is all about getting the real meaningful feedback at a point so that you get it right very quick. Make sense? So the thing is, storytelling creates it opens up a mind to a mind of wonder, especially a well-told story with a good climax really teases the mind. And then how you say this, then you tell what you want to tell and relate to the real context. What you want the context, it makes a lot of sense. So that's my interest. So I gave a talk, it's there on YouTube, on how do you tell stories. I personally think as a leader and as aspiring leaders, many of you, inspiring people is extremely important. Now, what I mean by that, I figured out because I started managing a team only 10 years before. First 10 years I was an individual contributor. I never had a team. There was no one reporting to me. I always had to report to someone. That's how my career was. But then I figured out when I started managing people, it's not easy because people are of different caliber, their interests, motivations are all different. I came to one point that I don't think I'll ever be able to get anyone to really do the work because and motivate them, right? That's the point it came. But then I figured out it's not that. People really many times do not know what they do things for. There's a whole story like this, right? This guy, this is a big architect. He goes into a place and he sees the stone cutters. All of them are just cutting stones the whole day, right? But he sees one guy. He's extremely joyful. He's cutting with a lot of josh. Now he gets quizzical. What is this that is secret in this boy? That he is able to cut the same stones and he's mundanely cutting the same thing again and doing the same thing again and again. So he goes and asks that guy, hey, what are you doing? He says, see, I'm cutting stones. Don't you see it? Now I know that. But then what is that makes you so joyful? He says, I'm cutting stones because I'm cutting stones for building a great citadel here. Now in this small conversation, what it ends up as, this guy is able to relate to his mundane task to a great outcome, which has a lot of meaning that he is able to relate to today. I only figured out if only we can really enthuse people to connect to the grand outcome today and make meaning of their task today for the outcome, the motivation starts setting in. That's why I love inspiring, and my life has been on improvements. This is about Brilio. Brilio is a digital transformation company. I'll skip the slide. The traditional view of engineering, traditional view of product development was this. This was somewhere a marketing guy, after struggling with various ways to communicate in his organization, finally came with this theory. He says, guys, at the end of it is what? This is a customer's view of quality as wanted, right? Now, finally, the producer who is producing the service or the product gets some specification, right? Now, between these two ends a gap. But finally, what he does, they don't deliver to the specification, there is a gap between what is specified and what is delivered. So net, there are two gaps that comes in. The gap number one is the customer gap. That is from the thing what customer wanted to what is specified, there is a gap. Then from what is specified to what is delivered, there is another gap. So there's a customer gap, there is a producer gap. If we can bridge these two gaps, we get a great product. Now, do you agree with this definition? Disagree with the definition? Agree? How many of you would like to disagree with this? Why do you disagree? Okay. Any other thoughts? Anyone else disagrees? Customers think it's dynamic. Okay. Have. This one? Oh, that's the only company which has made this gap zero. Can you guess the company? We all would have gone there. Huh? Most of the food chains like McDonald's, KFC, you go to McDonald's here, you go to McDonald's in US, you go to McDonald's in Australia, it will pretty much taste same. Even the cover, the way it is folded will look the same. So what they specify to what they deliver, they are exactly the same. But that's right. So the point is the gap may be wider, but all I'm trying to say is there's a gap. This is the way the industry abstracted the reality and said great products can be built if only there is a customer view of what, forget the word quality for a moment. This is what the customer wanted, but this is what the producer understood, and this is finally what the producer delivered. So there are gaps, there are two gaps. One is created between, because we couldn't understand exactly what the customer wanted, there is a gap. That's called the customer gap. And after understanding, still we couldn't deliver what we said we will do. That's the producer gap. If we fill these two gaps, we will build a great product. Right? This is exactly what this article was selling. And the industry adored this article. Right? In fact, you go to a old book of building product, building quality product and all that, this will be the way they will start. Now, there is one inherent weakness in this thing. The inherent weakness is this. The customer view of quality or the customer view of the product as he wants, it assumes the customer knows it. Now this is a paradigm which has been challenged not only now, over ages. I'll give you some examples. You know, this is Henry Ford, right? Now Henry Ford said something very, we don't know whether really he said it or not, but he at least lived a life which was very similar to this statement, right? This actually was quoted that he said it, right? The statement is, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, not cars, right? Now he literally believed in something like this. Now what was he trying to say? People really do not know what they want because they are in a current situation. They can only think in their current situation. If I would have gone, all were going in horses. If I would have gone and asked, hey, what keep moving in a rail? He said, that solves my problem. He came to his shop floor, actually implemented it. If you have gone to any shop floor, even today there are shop floors where you will see things on the railings on top of the people, right? So that's how he imagined solve problems. But he really understood the ground reality and abstracted it, and he is able to find a solution to that problem, right? So he is a pioneer in that way. Now, we don't need much introduction about this guy. He lived it. this is what he said. It's really hard to design products by focus groups. A set of people sitting together, this is debating, this is what is the thing. It doesn't come that way. What he believed, a lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. So fundamentally what he's saying, people really don't know. Someone said it very interesting about Steve. In fact, Steve really knew the real need of people than people themselves knew about what they wanted or what they needed. Right? Now, this guy is Akio Morita. He was the US, eventually he became the head of Sony, right? So, now he kept seeing these Americans loved music. So they used to take these big things, go to the beach, play music, dance. And then this guy will walk on the road with a Panasonic set in his ears, keep hearing and walking. He imagined if only we can put the music in their ears and allow them to walk, how will they be? And that's the thought that brought in the Walkman, which completely transformed the industry. He said, our plan is to lead the public with new products rather than ask them what kind of products they want. The public does not know what is possible, but we do. So if you're talking about really products which will transform, right, then the chart that we put possibly may not be the right thing. Here it assumes someone exactly knows what they need, right? But breakthrough products don't come from this thinking 100%, right? This is not wrong by any means. If you take a service of an existing thing, this will fairly be right. But then if you're talking about a breakthrough thinking, then obviously this has to look something like this. So there is something which is a ground reality. And someone who can abstract the ground reality and can think exactly this is what is the real need for people, right? That is the starting point. And then who defines the experience? Who defines it? The producer defines it. So here, really, the customer doesn't define the solution. The producer defines the solution. If the producer can define the solution exactly for the reality, then obviously this gap is going to be very narrow. So it is the first gap that can happen will be the gap of understanding the reality. The second gap is where the producer delivers, which will be the realization gap. So it's a reality gap and the realization gap. So in a way, the industry is moving, and more, even if there is a customer who is there wanting something, the industry is expecting that a producer will exactly define what the customer needs. Even a service company, it is becoming a norm today. The more and more this skill of really understanding the need becomes the way of requirements phase, that's when we are going to really build transformative products. So that's my first message. I'll move from here. That brings to the two things. How do we really get this right? So after Rama builds two products in our team, and both the things we struggle. It's not that it is not it's not a struggle, right? It's a building product and then making it really successful is not easy by any means, right? And it takes years. But then one of the biggest learning over a period is these two things. If you can get these two things right, over a period, the product really becomes successful. Is it the real need on the ground? Because half the things that the industry does are not really a requirement. I'll demonstrate to you, right? Or just wait, hold on to your thought. I know there are some physical phases. Half the products being done in the industry, half the services that fails, they are failing because it is really not a need. Someone imagined that's the need. But somewhere we need to be able to figure out, is it really a needed thing or not? Number one. Number two is, we use the term value. We go to a place, I don't see value here. We go to some other place, hey, this is of great value. Use the term value. The question is there a way we can ascertain value? I asked an audience like this. I asked them, what do you think, how do you define value? Well, let's put that way. How do you define value? useful. So who determines? The customer determines. Is there a problem with that? Correct. So it can be comparative as well, right? Benefit. Okay. So I asked the same question. This guy said, finally, when the product gets delivered, if the customer really sees a benefit, then it is of value. The only counter argument to that is that's too late. If you are an engineering, a product development company, and if that is the point on which your customer determines everything, right? Because you will never be able to get to all the key customers through the life cycle of a development phase. You can only get a sample, right? Now, that is too late. So we have to be able to figure out some mechanism to judge what the value upfront. Is it of great value or is it of least value? So the points like benefit, impact, problem, all these words are the ones we should be able to quantify it upfront. Okay, let me give you an illustration, and then I demystify this word, what is value. And as per what I understood, my team will understand it fairly well because I grind it to them. This is the way you should think. We were all in a world where we used to post letters, correct? How many days it used to take? 3 or 4 days to reach the recipient. And we also never knew whether it used to reach there. So there was, what was there? There was a barrier of time. There was a barrier of time. And then there was a barrier of assurance. I had to have a confidence, right? So there was a time barrier, then an assurance barrier. There was no confidence whether someone will tell, I never received the letter, right? It's very possible. So what happened? Post office introduced the registered post, on which you will get the confirmation. So one barrier got removed. What is the barrier got removed? The assurance barrier, right, got removed. So that barrier went off, but the time barrier was always there. So who came to exploit that? Courier companies. Telegraph was very small, yes, correct. Courier companies came. What did they do? Overnight shipping, right? The moment they said overnight shipping, they all did a lot of good business, correct? People were willing to pay that additional money also. Why? Because the barrier came down from such large numbers to much more shorter and assured outcome. They were sure now. So it became a success. Then came emails. What happened? This one day became couple of seconds, correct? So email obviously started becoming a big hit, but still there were some barriers. You need a machine, you have to go log in because of security and all that, and then see. Finally what came? A mobile and a WhatsApp kind of a thing. You can even know the other guy is typing for you, correct? So what has happened? The time barrier, which was couple of days, kept reducing. Now it is in milliseconds. Anything which kept breaking the barrier eventually became a success. So the definition I have for value is, in fact, ITIL as a methodology, if any of you have gone through, ITIL defines value as removal of barrier. The barrier need not be time barrier. The barrier may be a confidence barrier. The barrier may be a space barrier. Barrier may be anything. The moment you know upfront, you are removing a barrier, you are opening up floodgates of value to the user. The barrier may be reflected by a problem, barrier may be reflected by the absence of a benefit, it can be anything, but the more as a product guys, we understand the real barrier and the real need upfront, right? Both, if we can marry it together, we are designed to get a great product. This is my biggest learning in the last couple of years, and that's possibly the best thing I can give it to you. I'll illustrate these 2 points, and with that I'll come to a close. Now let's talk the need. Finding the need is not easy, right? Half the times, and this is a classical slide. This is of top 20 reasons why product companies, the startups have failed. The top thing is what? No market need, 42%. 42% of startup failures are because someone thought that's the need, but it wasn't the need. Either they were too early, right? Or it was definitely not required at all, but they thought that is what is required, right? So that is one of the biggest things. So that brings to the point, anyone who comes up with a great idea and say this is the requirement, right, is fundamentally a hypothesis. It is not a fact. Any idea, even the greatest of ideas, is primarily a hypothesis. I think that's where any product thinking guy has to keep it in mind. We need to have mechanisms to test it. And it's not easy, but the more we test it, the more we struggle with it, and the more we break it down, beat it down, that's where the success starts. Now, this is a classical example. This is a great idea, right? Some company had, whenever there is a business win, they will go and ring the bell. So it will energize the entire audience. And they brought this bell and they kept it in our floor. And our floor, where we sit, is a corporate floor, right? There's a finance team, there's a talent acquisition team, then there is the systems team, and there is one project team. So around some 50 odd people, more than 50, maybe 75 odd people sit there. Now I can tell you the fact, no one has ever rung the bell. Good idea? Yes? Would anyone say that when there is a new business, ring the bell is a bad idea? It will energize the people. But it's a failed idea. Why? If there's a real need, people would have figured out to go to the bell and rang it, no? Look at a company business like ours. We don't win business daily, right? And corporate floor will celebrate for what? For a new business? What makes people celebrate in a corporate floor? Huh? Something which is different. So we haven't really understood the psyche of people as to what their real needs are, and this great idea is not attached to the real need of the people there, right? It is someone thought this is the need for them, and they had no idea what the real ground need of people there, correct? So the point is, unless we can figure out the real need, right, else what we do, I'll tell that also. See, the total number of apps in the App Store is about 3 million, and the other iOS store is about iOS App Store is 2.2, and the Google Store is about 3 million or so. So there is out of this, if you really see, there is a metric called the daily average user, right? DAU. Which of the apps get very high DAUs? That's one metric. The second metric is how many of the people after installing actually uninstall within so many days. So if you take a normal app, it's the data pretty much, yeah, on an average app. So only this kind of Facebooks and this has a 90-day 70% retention. All other average app is only 9% retention. It doesn't even stay after 90 days in their phone. Pretty much 91% is a failure, outright failure, because 90th day it's gone from the people's phone, right? So that's the kind of data that we are talking about. So which means someone imagines a need, and really if you cannot get it, this is the phenomenon that will happen. So there is an interesting thing that came. Now someone came with the idea that we need a bot, right, for answering people's questions in the company, because we are growing, getting answers are becoming difficult, and now if there is a bot, I go and say who's the expenses contact, it should tell, or where is the expense policy, it should tell what is the leave policy, can I take, if I don't have a balance, can I take 2 days additional leave? So it should answer. Great idea, right? And today technology can support it as well. Now, do you think it will succeed or fail? Succeed? How many of you think it will fail? Correct. Seems there's a need. Very good. Very right point. There's some form of need. I'm not saying there is no need. Will it become a success? If I okay, there's a need, but we don't know. Okay, personal touch is missing. Very interesting. Very right. Huh? It's going to fail. Why? Okay. So this is in a context of a company. This is in a context of an office for specific basic policies. If you can mimic the actual personal thing, okay. Okay. It lacks personal touch. Fair enough. That's a different problem. I'll tell you let's do the psyche now. Assume that you are in your office and you have a query on expense. What's your first reaction that will be? Or you have a query on applying leave. What will you do first? Assume that you don't even know, you're a new employee. Ask the HR. Ask the HR. Or ask the guy who is kind of your buddy. Right? Now, we put this thing to a reality check. Now, this is the reality. Is this the reality that people will, if there is a query, they want to know how to, where do I apply leave? Will they go to a bot and ask, or will they ask the next guy? Which is the most right answer to this question? Next guy. So obviously, this is not the reality. Someone is imagining that a new world, somehow it will happen this way. Correct? But then we figured out, we have 500 people in US. They directly go and join the customer's location. Many times, they don't even meet another Brilio guy. In fact, everyone in that location, because the guy goes and joins the customer location, and he has to many times call the HR for simple things. Now tell me, if there is a bot to answer some of the most important questions, payroll processing date, or which date I should submit timesheet, right? What is the cutoff time for this, for my payroll, and my timesheet should be submitted. These are all real life questions, and every guy keeps asking. And if these kind of questions for an audience like that can be addressed through a bot, do you think that will have a bigger success than my team in India? Chances are high. So the point I'm trying to say is, the point is, there is a inherent problem there because of the setup there. We are not co-located there. It's a huge country with multiple time differences, right? And HR works on a certain time zone, not that they are in every time zone in every client location. And people go and land newly, and they don't have another brilliant next to many times. So there, if there is an idea like this, it has a slightly better chance of success, because anyway human touch is never there. Anyway, there is no next person to ask this question, right? So first thing is, how we need to really get to the reality on the ground, abstract it, be willing to fail, that this need is really not the major need, right? I'll give you another great example. We automated the leave system, right, in the mobile phone. In 2 seconds, you can really apply work from home. And we figured out the work from home is, in the most of them think of work from home in the morning of the day, right? We kind of abstracted the reality. When do they really think of work from home? Not that the previous day. Many times, even if they think the previous day, that day morning only they send the mail, I am working from home today, right? So if you have to have a system that they have to apply work from home, that has to be that morning. So what did we do? In our app, you go just click work from home, it will fill everything for you for that day. That leave category, the category, everything it will fill. You just need to submit. In fact, we were initially thinking we don't even need to submit, just he can click. But then there will be an error sometimes. So for that thing we added one thing, it will fill and show him. You click a submit. In 2 seconds flat, once you log in, you can do it. Now we have done so much. Do you think people should just use it or not? What percentage of people do you think would have used this feature? Corporate app. Corporate app, it's there on the corporate app's first page, front page. You just click it, it fills everything, click submit, 2 seconds. It automatically puts a push notification to your boss that this person is working from home. What percentage? Most of them. I'll tell you the real statistic. None of them used it. But anyway, it goes to the boss when you apply. I'll tell you the very interesting thing. It started becoming used today. Do you know why? Now we have connected the attendance system to it. If you don't swipe, it sends you a message that we don't know the status. If you don't regularize it in 3 days, either by saying work from home or leave, it automatically debits 1 day from your leave. Now people have started using it. Now what did we do here? It's a great system even earlier, right? So they used to send an email. So the point I want to leave, fantastic, you are all right, fantastic. What I am trying to say is, if there is no need, you have to create the need. It is important to understand. Many times what we do is not because there is always a need on the ground, right? Now for example, the classical example is a tablet. Now tablet is dying, right? Phones have started becoming bigger, laptops have started becoming smaller, so tablet is dying. Anyway, even in the first place, tablet had no reason. You cannot use it like a phone. They put SIM card and all that. No one used it like a phone, right? And it was neither as flexible as a laptop nor as flexible as a phone. It was somewhere in between, right? It was but then it became such a overnight success. How? If you really see the way Steve Jobs positioned it in his talk, he put 3 pictures. One corner was a laptop, one corner was a phone, and those days his phone was always smaller, as he believed phone has to be only that much size, right? Now, then what he did, phones can do this much, laptops can do this much, but then we need the flexibility of a phone and the space and spaciousness of a laptop, and that is where this is a intermediate product, and he made everyone believe that you need it, and he sold millions of it. Within few years it's dying, right? So the point I'm trying to say is he was able to create a need in a context which everyone can relate to. In the example of leave that I talked about, the moment we connected to the leave system, the attendance system, and then we said if you don't apply, system will auto apply and debit 1 day. Now what have we done there? We have created a need for it. Exactly. You may do it by force, you may do it by a carrot, you may do it by anything. But remember, if you are going with an idea, no ideas are bad, right? But ideas fail many times because it doesn't really address a specific need. If there is no need, there are great products which have created a need. It may be inside the corporate, it may be outside. I think as change, I come from as a change manager, right? It may be a simple template that we launch, right? We had a big challenge in getting project managers to write the project plan at the start of the project, right? Many of you would have been project managers, right? How many of you would like to write a 10-page project plan and get it reviewed by someone else? It's a drudgery, correct? Now, everyone knows it is the right thing to do, correct? Everyone knows that we need to plan upfront. Now, but no one was doing it. So we had a lot of debate. So someone said, hey, there has to be something which will stop, right? And someone has to be pulled up. What did we do? Every Friday, morning 9 to 11 is everyone knows in the company, every project manager knows, if his project is started the previous day, in the previous week in the system, he needs to come and present on 9 to 11 on the next Friday. Now, once this became the norm and it gets scheduled, the guy, someone is working with a guy to see, hey, someone is going to look at it, leadership is going to look at it, and then now they come with a plan. So the point I'm trying to say is, you look at anything, any idea, it has to be made a success. Either there has to be an inherent need, which is pulling it, or we have to figure out a way to push and make them feel the need. If either of these things are not there, believe me, great is not the great of the products. It's not the value which determines. We will have failed in first place of the need itself, right? And that's my first message. What did we do? We developed a product called Codex. Now, we had a lot of debate about this product. Now, it's a project management product. Like it's not like Jira, it's a portfolio management. It only automates, it doesn't do the task management, it does all the other things. Now, if it does all the other things, like metrics, collation, blah, blah, and all those things for a product, for a project data, it will say the project health, many things it will tell. Now, what do you think using this product will be? Drudgery for the project manager, or will he love to do it? So, question is, who wants this product? Project manager wants. Project managers are the major users of the project management product, right? Do they want it, or who wants it? Management wants it. 2 weeks back, I was in a discussion with HR. We were talking about automating, or rather, we were not happy with the current appraisal system. So we were debating that we should redevelop the whole thing. We put, who are the stakeholders? HR, leadership, appraiser, appraisee. My question in that meeting was this to HR: who wants the system? They said appraiser wants the system. Then I asked for what? To give feedback. Okay. Who next? Appraisee wants the system. For what? To get feedback. I said, any of these statements, are they really true? If an appraiser wants to give the feedback, he will anyway give the feedback, he doesn't want a system. If the appraisee wants the feedback, he will anyway go and take the feedback, he doesn't need the system. So neither appraisee wants a system, nor the appraiser wants a system. Then who wants a system? HR wants a system. Now the question is, so now you figure out the fallacy? This is a product, this is an idea that's bound to fail unless we really create a need for them to do it, right? We have to have something over and above just the product for them to really get the thing. So in this example, what we did, finally we flipped the coin. We said, hey, most of the project management systems are really a drudgery for project managers because they have to only keep feeding in the data. But if our vision of this product, our goal of this product is not going to be a friend of PM, we are going to really lose the entire thing. So the need itself is defined as, we need to really create a friend for the PM because they do a lot of stuff. And that's where we finally decided, okay, this we should be able to get to a different stage. So entire thinking revolved around this one goal. How do I create a friend for PM in doing his tasks? So the goal shifted because today is one of the need for a PM is they have to, before the Friday evening, that guy has to do so many things. Many times he is blindsided to so many things, right? If we can break those barriers and bring him something which does his work in a better way, that's when we can really see a need. Okay, I'll move from here. I'll talk about the value. How many minutes do I have now? I know it's a last day of the last session of the day, and you guys are extremely tired. I'll go with the class. How many minutes can I take? I'll finish within that. Okay, so you put the hand up when it is boring. I'll stop there. Right? Deal? Are you okay with it? Perfect. Okay. Now, I talked about the barrier, the time barrier, the assurance barrier. Now, these barriers, so I may find a great need, but still, when I design, if I'm not sure if I am breaking the barriers on the ground. Need alone doesn't suffice. You need to break the barrier. Incremental barrier breaking doesn't really always suffice. Okay. Now, this app we all know, right? The Ola or Uber and all those things. Now, what was the need? One guy is standing on one part of the road. There may be a vehicle on the other side of the road. This guy doesn't know that. That guy doesn't know there is a passenger waiting. So there was a need. How did the industry address it? They came with a phone number. You will see a lot of taxi call this number. That's how the industry addressed it. So there will be one operator sitting somewhere. You call the number, an operator picks up. He will ask where you are, note down the details, find a cab, and then send the cab to you. This is how industry was working on, correct? And we are all pretty okay with it. And many times, the only problem was it used to take maybe an hour or hour and a half prior. You need to plan for it, correct? That's how it was. What was the barriers there? The first barrier was you should know the number. You go to a new town, the number in Bangalore is not going to work, right? So you need to know the local taxi guy's number. So what in many times we would have all done, right? If you go to a new town, you'll actually be seeing there, if there is any taxi number, you will note it down, or my phone has still so many old Chennai taxi number and other cities, because you need to be able to call someone, right? So that knowing the number is the first barrier. What is the second barrier? Assume that you call and get connected. You should be able to tell where you are to that guy. And especially in a new city, you don't even know where you are, right? Or you can at best say a very bleak address, right? So that is the second barrier. And then he should know this location, note it down properly. The third is what? He should know the cars nearby. So he keeps calling, or they had figured out some way of communicating. So that guy should know who is the closest cab that is free. That's the third barrier, because in a large city like this, for someone to find out who is the closest cab to me is not an easy thing. So what is the fourth barrier? That guy has to find me, correct? That is also not easy, correct? So these are the multiple barriers. So it used to, finally all these things used to manifest in at least 2 hours prior. You should give us a notice. The last short time, it's very difficult for us to address this need. What did the app do? What is the first barrier? Knowing the number. You don't need, you just need the app. Second barrier was what? Location. App finds you where you are. Second barrier broken. Third barrier, the operator has to find the cab near you. Now the app finds it in no time. The barrier broken. Fourth barrier, the driver has to find you. The app guides the driver to your place. You see, from what it was couple of hours or maybe multiple minutes, it has come to few minutes now, less than 5 minutes. Now they are improving that service. They are saying if you are a Prime member, it will be much shorter, right? Those are the kinds of service assured thing. You will never have a guy decline it. You will always find it, right? That's a kind of a services they are bringing in now. So the point I'm trying to drive is, you see the barriers drive the success. Now the same Ola app, Ola and Uber launched the taxi service. Sorry, not the taxi, the auto service, right? Uber Auto came in 2015, Ola Auto also came. Now what happened to Uber Auto? 6 months they stopped it. Now today, for a taxi you don't get too many offers. For auto, there is offer after offer. 4 kilometers 29. So many offers, you see placards all around for Ola Auto. Why? Why are they not using? They have created a need also, right? I'll talk about the need also. There are all auto also, there is a kind of a need. But somewhere, there is a difference between auto and a taxi. Huh? Why? Sorry? That is one of the reasons. Many times you go to an Ola and book an auto, you will end up saying no autos nearby. Yeah. Is that the real reason? I'll tell you who all take the Ola auto and who are all not taking the Ola auto. The guy who wants to take an auto, what does he do? Many times he comes to the road, waits for an auto, puts the hand, most likely he gets one. That's the real world. Correct? That's the most likely real world, especially in most of this part of the city. Then I started asking people who said they want an auto. Why did you take? My wife always takes a Ola auto. She doesn't like to go and wait on the road and put the hand and stop a guy and get in. She wants assurance. Before starting from home, she knows that when she gets down, she gets an auto. Then she waits till the auto she gets, and she waits into the Ola. Even if it takes 5 to 10 minutes, she is willing to do that because she wants that. But you go to an MG road and go to all those roads, the number of people coming, putting the hand and taking an auto is much more than a guy in the crowded street or walking up from the office taking the app. If I have to take a Ola cab, what do? Moment I get from my seat in my office, I take the app, start booking there, right there. When I am reaching the ground, I am already booked, right? That's how we do. But I don't do the same thing for an auto. Because the barrier, if I have to do that, that is much higher barrier for me. Taking the app, taking the phone, opening it, going there, finding, booking, all that is much more a barrier than for me to walk into the road and put the hand and get into a auto. You see the barrier playing around here? But someone has a different barrier. And I was talking to a couple of people, especially women. I kept on asking multiple people, do you really take a Ola auto or not? And whomever has said, they are all non-working women at home, they prefer a Ola auto. They want some level of assurance that when they reach the road, they want a thing waiting there. They don't want to go and hassle of putting the hand, someone saying, no, I am not coming and all that. So when you are in a psyche of that, they want a Ola auto service. But else, if a guy is in a move, they are much more comfortable waiting for 1 minute or walking around, putting the hand and hopping into an auto and going. You see the real psyche of people playing around here? The real barrier for an auto in the real world is much shorter than a taxi. I went to Mumbai. I came out, I was trying to book a Ola. Half the guys came, I was coming out of a conference, half the guys came out, they put the hand, hopped into a local taxi and went. They were never trying to book a Ola. I was the only guy trying to standing there booking a Ola, and finally that guy said, I am in the other side, I am east, you are in west, I am not coming. That's how he cancelled the ride. Then finally I also went, put my hand, hopped into a taxi and went to the airport. See, the point I am trying to say is, in a context, what is the real barrier for this feature? For this real need to be met? If we can really understand the barrier upfront, right? Many times it's the barrier of time. If we can really see that this is the real barrier on the ground and I am significantly reducing it and I have created a need already, that is a recipe for high success. Let me illustrate. This is a company, this company is called HealthSpot. They came up with a brilliant idea. Around 2011 this company came, and in 2015 it went bust. And they spent about 43.8 million of venture capital money. Now what is the idea? The idea was, they said, people want healthcare in the place they are, right? They don't need to take time and go to the hospital, wait, book, wait, and then get the service. For many things, they have a quantification that so much percentage of illness are all minor. You don't really need a very big arrangement and all these things. So it can be a remote doctor who can do it. So they said in malls is where all people go, and they created a cube like this called Health Spot. It's a small cubicle, and you can go in, connect to the doctor there is a medical equipment there. You do everything, the doctor can actually hear the pulse, hear the things, then the doctor will suggest this is what you should do. So it avoids self-medication. At the same time, it's at the point where you most frequently visit, you can get the consultation. Great idea, not a great idea? Great idea, fantastic, but it miserably failed for one reason. There are multiple reasons in this company which has failed, but the most prominent reason is this. So they had the app on which the doctor's time is mentioned and you have to go and book. So when you book, you obviously book as per the doctor's available time. Now where should you be at that time? You have to go and find the health spot. You have to pick the health spot, mall also. So you have to find whether that mall spot is not booked by someone. So you have to match two things, book it, and then at that time you need to be there in the mall. You see the barrier that they have created for using the feature? Great idea. The idea was it should be in the place where people are on time, immediate. But when they designed the solution, they created so many barriers, then people felt it's actually a very nice looking, you can go and search about this photos and all that, very nicely done, right? But miserably failed. The barrier of using the feature was so high that they figured out that actually in the same time I can call my regular general practitioner and go to the hospital, wait 15 minutes, meet the doctor and drive back, right? So great idea, great need, but there are other companies doing it today in US. But this company, one of the pioneer, failed because they could never get out of the barrier. Because they designed a system with barrier and they kept on trying to keep improving on the same barrier of booking better, and they could never get it right. This is a very interesting example. This is, I don't know how many of you know typewriting. Huh? This is electronic typewriting, fantastic, right? And this was a big failure. This is a company called Smith Corona. This company, actually the original inventors of this text editor. We all use text editor. In Word, when we type, it can correct spellings. These were the guys who pioneered the IP of text editing actually was with these people. Now what did they do? When you type, typically when you type you can see it. The typewriter you can see what is being tuck, you can see, right? This used to type here in that console in a very small way. And then you can go back and edit. And then you can finally click and then the print will come here. Now good idea, bad idea? Because people were in typewriter on that day. Good idea, but the company went bust. I don't know how, if you have been in a typewriting company, I went for a typewriting class. The Remington used to be a machine that you have to keep pressing. Smith Corona used to be a very nice machine. It used to have a very beautiful keyboard. Only after you have learned typing well, they will allow you to sit near the kind of machine like this, right? Facet, Smith Corona, a couple of companies. This company, the problem is this. So when a typist types, they used to type at such a great speed, right? Now they never wanted something to stop and they made very few errors. What was the need for this? They figured out the need is, if someone, typically people are humans, they will make error while typing, right? So if I can edit it before I print it, then my problem is solved. So they provided a solution for it. But what did the solution do? It actually slowed down the person. Because a typist really types extremely fast and they are okay with one or two small errors, they will put a whitener and correct it. Correct? That's how they were. So what happened? Windows came at that time, the desktops came, they provided that you can type the whole thing, correct it at once and then print it. Problem solved. When they came, these guys went bust. it introduced more barriers for people to achieve the intended outcome than the other solution, which came with much lesser barrier. You keep typing the same speed, you don't need to stop. Right? Finally, you can edit it once and print it. So that solution literally brought all the typewriters to a close. Though these guys were the pioneers in identifying a text editor, they couldn't get to a solution which really addressed the need with lesser barrier. The barriers really killed them. MyGate app is I'll skip this. Apple, what barrier do you think they broke? BlackBerry had all the features of a smartphone. What barrier did they break? Huh? Music? Keyboard barrier. The moment they broke the keyboard barrier, the space became so high that it opened up a huge value chain for them. In fact, Steve Jobs they said, kill this keyboard. Bring soft keyboard. That's the only way you can make the phone be more useful than what it is today, really smarter than this. That was the fundamental barrier they broke. They did multiple more things, but that is where they could give an interface much user friendly, much useful. If they would have tried the same way like BlackBerry, it would have been just bit incremental. But they could go to a different world altogether because they broke that barrier of keyboard, right? Now, Henry Ford, when he developed the cars, he knew people were not in cars, right? So he need to really break the barrier of people and people should be able to go long distance with a car. Only then the car becomes successful. So what did he do? He went to the oil companies. In fact, Ford itself started putting multiple bunks on long roads so that people can come from one bunk to another because the tanks were not so big those days. Right? And the efficiency was extremely low. So they had to fill quite a lot. So they calculated and he put multiple bunks so that people can actually go for long rides. So he was breaking the barriers for the real usage. He was not just sitting and building cars. He went to the Senate and made them put long roads. He reduced the price of his cars that even the employees in his companies, in his own company, could use it and buy one car. Every Ford employee had a car, right? So he broke multiple barriers for people that they could go for long drives. And the first few, in fact, there are more than 100 companies started making cars in 1900s. It is not only few GMs and Fords and few companies. More than 100 companies, and most of them went bust. And only few companies survived. And one of that, the pioneer is Ford, right? So think of it, what barriers does it break? And Google now we all know, right? Initially, you have to feed in your data for it to recommend to you that your flight is going to be like this and all that. Now, if it's coming to Gmail, it automatically reads, right? And tells you there's a flight going to be there tomorrow. It's very scary also sometimes how much it understands you than what you can really understand. Exactly. Right? So they are breaking all the barriers, right? So think of your solution that have I really got the need, or am I able to create a need? Number one. Second, am I really breaking the barrier for people in designing the solution? For example, we did a timesheet. Timesheet has 5 days, multiple tasks and all these things. And so one of the feature we never automated was the timesheet in our app. I was not at all comfortable because any other designs that came, you will fill for 1 day, next day, next, third day, next. What will happen in this design? The guy after filling Friday wants to edit for Monday because he would have known now, hey, Monday I was on leave but I filled time. Now he has to go back. Now what's the barrier in this? I am making more time. I am making the user take more time to fill this feature. But it's a nice jazzy UI. Lot of time we looked at so many time entering apps. Many time entering apps are daily. You enter for a day, next and all that. But they looked very nice. We said this is not the design we want. Then the point is 95% of people fill the time, it's a billing timesheet. Then what do you see? 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 for the project that they are allocated. System knows the project that they are allocated? Yes? System knows the guy was on leave on certain day. So what did we do? When the person logs and clicks timesheet, it auto fills for the week. Whichever week you are in. It will present the timesheet. 8, 8, third 8 is a holiday. It will show in a different color. 8 and 8. It will, in the back end, would have mapped it to the right project code. And if you want to edit, you can edit, but it's all in a single screen. And then you can submit and get out. Till we got this design, and in a happy day scenario, the guy should be able to do it in less than 5 seconds. The imagination was, and typically when do they submit? Friday evening is what they submit. And what happens Friday evening? Because they have to go log in into somewhere, they cannot submit, the guy leaves it and then doesn't do it on a Monday morning also, then someone has to keep following. The imagination is, can he get up from his seat on a Friday evening before he goes to the lift, open the app, and it fills everything for him, because 95% is anyway they don't change it, and just submit it. Till we could get to this least barrier, we kept doing it. There is another interesting feature, Rama only did it. The feature was, we were trying to see the client can interact with our project team. For example, week on week we talk to a guy, right, in the client's IT side. That guy is not the real product owner. The product owner is from the business side, right? But this guy, what he feels has a lot of importance. Now, in an agile cycle, product owner is somehow part of your life cycle. But this guy is very aloof. So how do we get him into our life cycle? So we came up with a novel idea that in the status report, if we can automate the status report through the system, and that can go with 3 emoticons, a green, red and amber, the guy can click a red or a green or something and tell, this is my experience this week. One click and one submit. Now the problem was, people are on an email system. In the email, what happens? They just open, you can put many times that you open the previous week, same content will be there, same people will be there, attach the file and shoot and then go home. Because this is the last activity on a Friday, they don't care. And many times people on the other side also don't read the status report, right? So this is the reality. So when we designed, what we were trying to do was, we wanted to see, can we design the screen exactly like, how much can it be exactly like the real world? Because we can never make it closer to the real world, correct? Because this is the real world is an email system. Now we are actually making a web system. But we took every small detail. Finally, we came close to the real world and said, instead of going to the email, you come and click, it fills most of the things for you. And you just need to attach the file and send it out, right? So that is when unless otherwise we break the barrier so much, the chance of success is going to be less. So I'll skip some of these things. I think I'll leave the last 2 thoughts and then I'll close it. Now, how do we break barriers? Now, one is the way you design it. Think through this and do it, right? Typically, the technologies that are emerging, right? One of the thought I want to leave with you is, think on the next curve. What I mean by that is, there are technologies emerging today which helps to break the barrier. Right? This is an example. Now, there is a speed governor in the vehicles, right? It is a mechanical device. Now they no more put those things. These many taxi companies, what they have done is, the phone is anyway connected. Because the phone is connected, it can measure the speed. They get notification you are over speeding. Correct? So once we are in the next generation technology, the solutions become easier. Now we introduced an attendance management system. Still the system is like this with our swipe system. Our swipe system is very ancient. Now the problem with the swipe system is, it works only for India, because they are all working in our office. Correct? It doesn't work for the guys in US. Now imagine if we can track our markets guy by giving the location, client's location. Now we will know that guy has visited the client. You don't need any other system. We know how much is the client engagement of that one person. How many days in a week, how many days in a month the guy is going there. When he goes there, We can check here, you have gone so many times, you have not updated any opportunity. Right? The moment we can track this, it opens up a huge world of opportunities for us. So, the same attendance problem, now it is being construed in a different way. Can we take geofencing and create use cases, not just attendance, much more than that? Think on the next curve of technology, your opportunities and possibilities become very high to address the problem. This is a thought. If you are talking about a product, how much do we think divergent versus convergent? The convergent thinking primarily says you already put the boundary, right? It's a classical story goes like this, right? They were all sitting and debating. The kids take the ice cream cups, which are glass, and they drop it, right? And they were debating, how do we stop this? One guy said, finally, let's better eat this cup here, we can't solve the problem. And the other guy said, hey, that sounds a good idea. Why can't we develop something which can be eaten along with ice cream? That's how came the cone, right? Now, the point I'm trying to drive is, convergent thinking always puts the boundary. Can you break the boundary? Get your team to break the boundary and start diverging out and then converge. For example, if you are talking about a talk like this, right? Now obviously it's in the end of day, it's very difficult to focus, right? But assume the company, college wants to do the same talk in a different way. What could be the divergent view to this? Yeah, possible. Okay. Let's just take this one thought. This talk, see, typically talk means invite a person to the campus, arrange the cab, get the guy, make him talk, go. This is a convergent thinking because it's already designed. There is a boundary already built. Now assume that you have to break this boundary, diverge from here. Go to Starbucks, maybe one. Okay, fair enough. There can be actually zillions of ideas for this, right? Could be someone, why do you need, ask the guy to record something in 5 2-minute things and 2-minute slots. Between every session we will play 2-minute. Could be a different thing, right? The point is, the moment we put a boundary, it becomes very convergent. And especially when we are trying to even imagine features, imagine the need, imagine things. How much can we be divergent? How much can we break the boundaries? Right? That's what is going to drive the real value adding features that are going to come. I'll give you this example. Now, we all have seen this pencil, right? Pencil is for writing, right? Why did they give the rubber? Pencil is for writing. Today we don't think, I don't see anything different here because pencil is there. With the rubber, we have taken it as granted. But initially, pencil was never with the rubber. But someone imagined, right? We should put a rubber on the back of the pencil. Why? Because when you write, typically people will make a mistake. There should be a quick way to rub it. Somewhere there was an add-on. It never looked for so many pencil companies, it never looked right. But somewhere someone designed it because they wanted to create an add-on. See this? This is for stapling. Now there is something in the back for removing the staple. It's totally an oxymoron thing. One is for doing, next is for removing. But the guy who did it imagined, when he does, he will obviously do something wrong. We have to give him a quick way to pull it out, right? So imagine if we are designing products, how much can there be intelligent add-ons? How much can we imagine, right? Things which are not always very, how do I do is one, how not to do or how the guy will do wrong, that I can do something add-on which will make the value of the product much higher. And most of these things create zing effect, right? This is a product, or Codex is a project management thing. Now, when we imagine the first phase 3 is the imagination. Now, this side is all about intelligence. Anything that happens about this project is coming here now. This is one of the initial conceptualization slide. So fundamentally, we thought one of the things which a project manager really lacks He's intelligent about his project, which is happening especially about his project around in other systems. Maybe a person is leaving, he has resigned. This guy's last 5 days is what is remaining. Many times project manager doesn't know. The guy comes and says, hey, my last day is 2 days from now. Then the guy suddenly, hey, only 2 days, I have to do something about it now, right? Now, can the system say 10 days from now this guy is going to leave, have you done the proper KT? Right? Can there be intelligence about his project, what he needs to do, at least as a reminder to ask him, hey, I have done. Can it be a friend to him, right? So, else a simple product like this will become much more drudgery, because it is like the person has to come and do two things. You will design for the two things, and it doesn't really add any add-on to it. Now, this is our mobile app. Now, the mobile app was for applying leave, applying all these functions. But what it shows is who are all the new joiners in his team, what are the holidays upcoming, what are the birthdays of people upcoming in his team. All of that the system will give. Now, is it anything to do with an enterprise transactional app? No. But this is, I'll tell you, this is what has really made the app much more interesting. So think of whenever you create a project, be divergent, help people to get add-ons. You will obviously amplify the value. The last thought I'll leave with you, I did not put in the slide. The last thought I'll leave with you, we have something called telemetry. Now, my imagination on telemetry was this. If I have designed a product to someone for value, I should be knowing whether it adds value or not, right? Now, which means what? If I have designed a product like this, I need to know how many people come here and use this to send a message through this system. If I have put a new joiner, how many of them actually opened the app, clicked the send message feature and said to this guy, welcome. If I don't know those things, I don't know whether the real value is there or not. So, if I have to deliver this product and go to the face of the user and finally ask him, hey, is a product of great value? And the guy says, oh, not so great. I'm already gone. Can I have a bot or can I have an automated engine behind which can help me measure that automatically? Can I know how many seconds it took him for doing the transaction from start to end? If I as a CIO can sit in my cabin or sit in my place and get this data live, who are my top users, who are my non-users, who are sitting idle, then I can do something about it. Because that is the last step of your value. If customer is finally going to be the only measure of value and I don't have any sense with it, then I already lost it. So let me summarize it, the 3-4 things that I said. If in building what I have learned, beat down the need. That's point number 1. If there is, you know for sure there is no need, but you still want to do it of a product, figure out a way to create the need. That's point number 1. Whatever you are building, understand the real barrier on the ground for people in doing it, and you can measure it. You can fairly well measure it. It can be qualified, it can be measured sometimes, but figure out a way to measure it. If you can actually move on the next curve of technology, it helps you to break better barriers, or it helps you to break barriers better. Number 3, think of divergent ways, think of add-ons to make it really look very interesting. The Zing effect always helps. The last thought I left is figure out a way to measure value, which is people really using the system independent of people telling you, so that you react much faster than someone coming and telling after you have failed. These are the 5 learnings, and we have implemented. Some of these things are really paying back. With that, thank you so much. I know last day of thank you so much.